What up, football fans of the internet, and welcome back to another edition of the ONETA Football Show, brought to you by PTE Creative, in honor of WrestleMania 40. But today we're not doing wrestling, we're doing football, as per the name of the show. And it's big board time. The delayed big board episode had to call an audible last week. Apologies for that once again. But it's big board time. So I'm unveiling my top 25 players in this year's 2024 NFL Draft. I do my big board a little bit differently, so I'm going to explain that right here and now as we get into the activity. When I do a big board, I do not just go grade, this is guy 1, 2, 3, because I gave him a 9.8, and then I gave him a 9.7, and I gave him a 9.6. I do not do that. My big board very much comes down to preference, closer to what you would see an NFL team actually do. And I'm not saying I'm an NFL team and I have the most inside track of knowledge whatsoever. But the way I do a big board is closer to what a team does by saying, all right, I like this guy over this guy over this guy. Doing it like a team draft board more than, okay, these are the guys I evaluated and I have a better grade. For instance, if you heard my quarterback episode, my quarterback rankings episode going into the draft this year, which is about 2-3 weeks ago, you will know that I have a higher grade on Drake May than I do JJ McCarthy. However, from a draft standpoint, I would rather draft JJ McCarthy than Drake May. A lot has to do with cost evaluation of that as a prospect, but also my just gut feeling as an evaluator, seeing the tape and my feeling of the player moving forward, because you have to trust your gut in an evaluation. So I have this not heavily, but I try to make the best balance of my grade with my preference of player, put them together and marry them to make the best draft board possible, so I can go, here's fair and honest, but here's who I like more here or there. And that is how I do my big board, very much like a personal preference board would be for an NFL team, how they rank the guys they have. So without further ado, here is my top 25 players of the 2024 NFL Draft. So as we get into the big board, I want to make clear there are a few positions I'm a little light on. Quarterback is not one of them. When I say light on, I'm still doing evaluations, so these might change a hair. I may be able to do an updated list prior to, I'll most likely do an updated big board prior to the draft, but also I will continually update things so people understand. I'm not done with evaluations just like everybody else. I'm still in full study session when it comes to football, even though I have 20 billion other projects working creatively and other 20, 30 billion other personal projects that I have to deal with currently. But as we get into the big board, one position I am not light on is quarterback. Number 25, I have Bo Nix, quarterback, Oregon. The thing about Bo Nix for me that I am that I find to be super important is this. I think that when it comes to quarterbacks, projections can be both your best friend and your worst enemy. But that is what you are tasked to do as an evaluator. Is to go through and say, where can this guy go? How much of this is the guy that we're going to get? And how much is the guy going to be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now in a draft evaluation process? Part of scouting is projection. But I evaluate the player on tape as much as possible and say, this is what the guy is, and then I go, where could he be? I think Bo Nix can be a very successful NFL quarterback. I think he has a big enough arm to do that. I think he's an accurate enough passer. He definitely has the lineage. And by lineage, I'm not a big lineage guy just saying, oh, he's the son of this or he's the son of that. Ergo, he's going to be great. But what I mean with Bo Nix specifically is he's been born, bred, and raised by a phenomenal and historic college football coach. He understands the football culture and the football life and the dedication you need to have to that position to get better. And at the same time, he failed at a different institution and then got to Oregon and became the player he was through hard work, dedication, and getting the right opportunity and being the right fit. That is important. I have Bo Nix at 25 because he is my fifth ranked quarterback, my sixth ranked quarterback. However, I do think there's 6 first round quarterbacks that are valid picks, and I would say one of those is Bo Nix. I like the accuracy, I like the timing in which he throws the ball, and he has good thing. But number 25 is Bo Nix, quarterback, Oregon. Number 24, we're going over to the defensive side of the ball, and it is Nate Wiggins, corner, Clemson. You want to talk about a fast motherfucker? This is a fast motherfucker. He's not the fastest guy in this draft, but he's damn close. Nate Wiggins, a little bit undersized from where I'd like him to be. Fully admit to that. But if you've heard previous shows that I've done, I am always of the opinion that a few of your guys, especially on defense, need to have the BMF quality, the bad motherfucker quality, that just goes through and they just believe, whether they're right or wrong, that they're going to fuck the play up. That gives confidence to the rest of the defense, and everybody on your defense is enriched by that spirit. Nate Wiggins has that. I'm a little concerned how much his game he has speed-wise, where his game is solely based on speed, and he relies on his speed quite a bit. However, the speed is enough that he can compete. And he has a very good mentality as a corner, where if he does get beat, he can wipe it right away and do things. One great play on that, he gets beat on a long ball route, and the most impressive play of his entire run with Nate Wiggins is he just takes off running, and he's already closing, and then he's got this like fourth gear almost, where he just goes, oh shit, I'm not going to catch him, and he just blazes even faster and gets the guy, Don Beebe-esque. I remember this play all the way back from 1996, and then another one from the Super Bowl with Leon Lett. Beebe runs the guy down and punches the ball out and forces the touchback or forces the change of possession. Wiggins does that at the 6-inch line because the closing speed, watch the film, it just goes, he closes the gap like it's nothing. He can close a gap on a ball insanely quickly. Like I said, he's got the attitude, he's got the moxie. I like what he can bring to the football field. He's good in coverage. Can get beat by speed a little bit, which is kind of ironic, but he's having no speed. Yeah, so number 24 is Nate Wiggins, cornerback, Clemson. We stay at the cornerback position. Number 23, a guy I didn't think I was going to like as much as I did, but he's an all-around one hell of a goddamn athlete, and that is Cooper DeJean, cornerback, Iowa. I think if you're looking for a pure speed corner and a BMF motherfucker mentality at your corner position, Nate Wiggins is your guy. But I think these guys are super close. I think Cooper DeJean is actually better in coverage than Nate Wiggins is. I just don't think he has the closing speed or long speed to stay with guys nearly as much as Nate Wiggins. I'm not saying Cooper DeJean can't do that. I'm just saying he doesn't have Nate Wiggins' level quality of that. However, Cooper DeJean can play outside, can play slot. I think if you asked him, he could play safety. He is a very willing tackler. Not a great tackler, but a very willing tackler who's going to help in run support. And he's a phenomenal punt and kick returner, which to me always gives you an edge. I'm a huge believer in special teams. Cooper DeJean is a phenomenal athlete, but he's an extremely intelligent player and understands what he's good at and what he's not good at, understands leverage points, understands how to manipulate routes with use of his body where he is in coverage. If you watch, when he plays big-time receivers, he holds up well against them because he's very smart. And he can understand what he needs to do to compete with someone who may be a superior athlete, and there's not many people who are more superior athletes than he is. So I give the guy a lot of credit because there's a realism to a game to a guy whose athleticism kind of gives him the right to think that he can't be beat by athleticism. But he's really smart and intelligent in those ways, so I have to say. Cooper DeJean, cornerback, Iowa at 23. Now 22. We stay at the corner position. It was crazy how many corners I had just back to back to back. We go Kool-Aid McKinstry, the guy that was giving the most attention at Alabama this year going into the draft until the end of the season for the most part. Kool-Aid McKinstry is a nice, big, physical corner. I like Kool-Aid McKinstry quite a bit. I like his game. He just doesn't flash as much as another teammate of his at the same position that you will see further on in the top 25. I think if you're looking for prototypical corner, which is why I gave him a 22 instead of the 23 or 24, because it's all personal preference here. If you're the GM of a team that's picking a corner and the top two are gone, and your choices come down to Kool-Aid McKinstry, Nate Wiggins, and Cooper DeJean. If you're the GM that needs to have a hit, I think you pick Kool-Aid McKinstry of the three. If you have the luxury to go take a swing on a guy and know that you're not screwed as a GM, going to lose your job next season if you fuck up a draft, if you can take a swing, I don't think Kool-Aid's your guy. I think Cooper DeJean or Nate Wiggins is your guy. But if you need a safe pick who's going to be a good, productive NFL corner, who's not going to get beat much, play smart, play physical, run support, come from a great lineage of coaching from Alabama and Nick Saban, who is the best defensive backs coach of all time, it's without question, Kool-Aid McKinstry has all those tools, and he's a good player. So the knock on him isn't fair because he's getting compared to Terry and Arnold a lot and the other guys, but he's a good corner and a good player. And he's a smart player too. So I have 22 for the safety of it. I have Kool-Aid McKinstry. If you're going for the swing, you take Cooper DeJean or Nate Wiggins. If you're going for the safe, prototypical player who's bankable at the NFL level, it's probably Kool-Aid McKinstry, which is why I gave him the nod at 22, not 23 or 24. And as we round out the 20s, we're going number 21, Michael Penix Jr., quarterback, Washington. Heisman finalist, huge can of an arm, one hell of a successful player at Washington. The deep ball is pretty. He throws the best deep ball of anybody in the class. That goes without question. He plays within the pocket the best out of anybody in the class. Understanding how to manipulate the structure of a pocket, playing within the structure that you have, that is Michael Penix Jr. He's the best at that. In terms of comfortability in the pocket, not going to bail out of the pocket unless he absolutely has to, that is Michael Penix Jr. He does have the ability to run, he just doesn't use it very often because he's developing as a passer. Concerns, obviously, age and health history. I understand those, but flat out, the guy can play. And I evaluate the guy on the field, and I think Michael Penix could be a starting quarterback at the NFL level and do a pretty good job of it. I have a little concern with underneath short and intermediate route accuracy. There's not a ton of consistent accuracy there. However, it was getting better towards the end of the year. Never mind the Michigan game. That was bad. But deep, he's got it. And then NFL level, your constant repetitions are going to be in short and intermediate routes. You're not going to get a ton of deep routes. So you don't need to develop that as much, especially with a guy like Michael Penix Jr., who already can do that and has a huge arm and has a huge threat to do those things. His repetitions are going to constantly make him better in the short and intermediate game, which is going to be beneficial to him because his deficits are what NFL coaching is good at teaching people. So I have 21 Michael Penix Jr. If you do want a little bit more on any of the quarterbacks, because I'm going to try not to gush about them as much, you can go to the top 5 quarterback episode. You can find that on Spotify, and then you can find an abbreviated version of that at the end of the top 5 wide receivers of the class on YouTube. But 21, Michael Penix Jr., quarterback, Washington. Now, here's the real one. This is one that's going to catch me a ton of flack from a certain perspective of the internet. Number 20, I have Drake May, quarterback, North Carolina. I already said something extremely controversial about Drake May. I will double down on it here. I will not back down from the take. I trust my gut when it comes to a quarterback. I can be wrong. I'm not saying I can't. But when it comes to straight gut feeling about quarterbacks, very rarely am I wrong. My evaluation can be wrong, but very rarely is my gut feeling wrong. My gut feeling tells me Drake May is going to be a bust. I have deep concerns about Drake May. Having said that, though, I evaluate the guy on tape. From a projection standpoint, outside of Caleb Williams, Drake May is the best quarterback in this class when it comes to pure projection of what he could be. That is honest and fair. Phenomenal arm, responsibility to play within structure, knows when to just run the play, and then has the ability to make a play when the things break down. And he can make every throw on the field. Those things are unquestionable about Drake May. I will always be fair in my evaluation. Those are extreme positives. I just have that horrible gut feeling because I don't think the accuracy there is there at all. And by accuracy, I'm saying he will make boneheaded mistakes when it comes to accuracy. Or he will just not be able to hit the broadside of a barn sometimes, and then he'll throw a dime and everyone goes, see, he's super accurate. No, he's not. He's not. And I've talked myself into guys that were too accuracy based. I'll be the first to tell you, if you can somehow track down my old blog, which is all the way back from 2020, 2021 days, I talked myself into liking Tua Tagovailoa because I was trying to be a very fair, honest, open-minded evaluator and going against my gut of what I actually like in a quarterback. I had the same alarm bells about Tua, but for different reasons. I had the same alarm bells in 2018 about Josh Rosen, where I had Josh Rosen on my do not draft list. That is how much I was certain Josh Rosen was not going to succeed at the NFL level. I can be wrong. I'm not saying I can't be. But to me, the biggest bust factor in the entire draft this year is Drake May. Because the consistent tools to play at the highest level of the position in the NFL, I don't believe Drake May possesses that tool right now. And I don't know if he's going to get it. He is a project. He's super young. He could turn out to be the best of the bunch. And for him personally, I hope that happens. I'm never rooting against somebody personally. I'm simply giving the evaluation. So I had to be fair based on the evaluation of the player, of what he could be and what he is on tape. Drake May is my 20th best player. But I would have him as, if you told me I have to take Drake May as a top 3 player, I'm not touching him. I'm trading down. I'm taking Marvin Harrison Jr., or I'm going to find another option. Some way, shape, or form. To better my team. If you say I can get Drake May at 20, now we're talking. I would make, if you got him all the way to 15, you could maybe talk me into it, depending on what we're going to have to give up as a team. So number 20, I have Drake May, quarterback, UNC. It's going to be very interesting to see draft night where he goes. On a personal level, all the best to Drake May. Hope he has a great career. Number 19, moving on from the great negativity wash that is Evan in 2024. Even though I shouldn't be that negative anymore. I'm leaving Philadelphia. I'm getting away from the place I'm not crazy about. Going back to the homeland of Wisconsin. Heard it here first on the ONETA show. Shaboy is moving soon. But number 19, I have Chop Robinson, edge, Penn State. So, of the big time edge players in this year's draft, Chop is the most, I wouldn't say frustrating watch, that's not the right favorite, but Chop is the guy who is the biggest projection to me. I think Chop's a good pass rusher. He has pass rush moves. He needs to develop them more. He just feels raw. I'm okay with raw at the edge position because the position in and of itself is kind of raw. It's about can you out athlete people and then add techniques and do things to make you last. There's a lot of times you see guys have a 1, 2, or 3 year run as an edge, and you're like, holy shit, they're amazing. And they start and they never develop further. I think Chop can be a good NFL edge player. I think he can project to be a way better player than a lot of guys. He needs development, though. So that is my greatest concern with Chop Robinson. But Chop Robinson is the kind of guy going to be good in run support, understands how to contain the pocket. I do like that about Chop a lot, which is really important. This is the discipline factor of an edge player. And is learning to develop more as a pass rusher. I like his use of hands as well. I think Chop could be very, very successful for a team if he gets the right development to it. So at 19, I have Chop Robinson, Edge, Penn State. Number 18. I've got Byron Murphy, defensive lineman, really defensive tackle. Texas. You want to see a different tale of the tape? Go watch Byron Murphy's tape. I usually avoid pictures like that. If you're seeing the video format on YouTube, I usually avoid pictures like this. I try to get in progress shots while in the game if I'm talking about football, simply because anybody can pose and look cool. But this kind of befits the way Byron Murphy plays. If you want an extremely high motor effort player, Byron Murphy is your guy. He's a great run stuffer, really likes plugging gaps, really likes attacking gaps through different means, is a phenomenal stunt and gap player. But he's extremely aggressively minded to go get the quarterback. So often with defensive linemen, they do not have they want to go get him and they don't have it. Or they have it and they don't have the same zeal to go get the quarterback as they do just being responsible in the gap and stopping the run. It is amazing how many players don't have the whole toolkit to do that. I feel Byron Murphy actually does. Now, there's times in games that Byron Murphy goes quiet, which is why he's not higher on my list. But the more and more tape I watch of Byron Murphy, the more and more I like the guy. Byron Murphy is the kind of guy that, because of quarterbacks and wide receivers, I could see him slipping. And cornerbacks as well, because the corner market, once you get outside of the top 10, can really heat up. I wouldn't be shocked seeing Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Cooper DeJean all go in the teens simply because a team falls in love with them. So I do see Byron Murphy possibly slip into a really, really good team. And if a Byron Murphy is going to fall to a Kansas City, if a Byron Murphy, I don't think he's going to fall to 32, but he falls to Kansas City, he falls to Buffalo, he falls to even Cincinnati. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if by some ridiculous football nonsense he falls to San Francisco. He'd be great in all those schemes because they like attacking-minded people. But I don't think he's going to escape past the Rams, who are, I believe, at 20. Because the Rams just lost the best defensive tackle of all time. So I wouldn't be shocked if they just said, we got to figure out something. I think that might be a mistake for them it rarely ever works to get the one-for-one replacement. Byron Murphy's not Aaron Donald. I'm saying that clearly right now. Nobody's Aaron Donald. But Byron Murphy is a very good player. Not gonna lie. Slips to Green Bay. Ain't gonna be mad. So, number 18, just another guy that's got a bit of that bad motherfucker mentality that I love in a defensive player. When the shit gets real, you want Byron Murphy on your team. Number 18, Byron Murphy, second, I believe, from Texas. Number 17, we're back at the edge position. A guy that I was a little shocked I went as low on him as I did. And it's a guy who's getting a ton of pub as a top 10 player. And I'm going to pull up his grade for myself just because I'm blanking on the grade that I gave him myself. But I have a middle of the first round grade for Dallas Turner. This is Dallas Turner, edge player out of Alabama. This is going to sound very negative in my tone right now, and it's not meant to be. I really like Dallas Turner. I just don't think he's a top 10 NFL player or a top 10 NFL draft prospect. I think he's a great middle of the round player. And that's my concern is more value of where he's getting drafted, not the player. Dallas Turner, supremely athletic, actually learns how to drop in coverage, which is kind of crazy. He plays very much almost like an outside linebacker that rushes a lot, more so than an edge rusher who's always at the defensive end position and then occasionally drops back. In Alabama, he plays very much like an outside linebacker, dropping back as often as he does back into coverage. Which is kind of crazy and really admirable. Good contained player, good run support player, does know and is effective at rushing the passer. I didn't see Dallas Turner get home and really take the quarterback out of the equation very much outside of big spurts in my evaluation of the tape. However, he's a very good, consistent player. He plays similarly to Will Anderson Jr. I just don't think he has the same pop that his teammate Will Anderson Jr. had. Not to say he's not going to be a good player. I think he is going to be a good player. I'm just a little concerned about the value of it, which is why I have him at 17. If anywhere from 12 to 14, he gets in there, I think that's totally fine. If you get him past 15, I think it's a steal. Because he's a really good edge rusher. So I completely understand it from the positional value standpoint, but that is where I have him. I have him at 17. My gosh. 17, Dallas Turner, edge player, Alabama. Again, really good player. Really like him. There's not a lot of overvalued guys in this draft, in my opinion, for the most part. However, we are getting a guy that is being overvalued, by my opinion, but a guy I really, really love. Number 16, like I said, it's going to be a little wild. I have J.J. McCarthy, quarterback, Michigan. So I'll get into the two things that are going to be big controversies, and then I'll go into why I like J.J. McCarthy a lot. And if you want the full, oh my God, I really like what J.J. McCarthy does, go listen to the Top 5 QB episode from a couple weeks back. The two things that are immediately going to come off is one, if you believe he is being overvalued, why is he above guys that you think are going to be very good, productive players? One, it's the quarterback market. It's how the quarterback draft process works. Quarterbacks are always artificially pushed up the pole. Very rarely are you going to find a quarterback that's going to actually be drafted at the spot he belongs at if he's a higher tier quarterback. That's number one. Number two, you just said Drake May, you have a higher grade on than J.J. McCarthy, and that's true. I think from a projection standpoint, like I said before, Drake May could very well be a way better player than J.J. McCarthy. And that's totally fair. But again, this is a personal preference board. This is a NFL team style draft board where who am I taking? Who do I want? I like J.J. McCarthy's game a lot. The more and more I think about it and I see it, I just like it more. Because I think you get the best of a lot of worlds. He's a better athlete than he's given credit for. He has a better arm than he's given credit for. It's not crazy good. It's nowhere near the top end guys like Caleb Williams, like Michael Penix Jr., like Drake May. He doesn't have that arm. But he has a very good, serviceable NFL arm. He has a bit of that clutch gene that you definitely want. J.J. McCarthy has that. That's undeniable. which I always love in my quarterback, as every team and every fan in the world should want. Which is why I like the guys that I like, and I don't like the other guys that I don't. But with McCarthy, I think you have, in a weird way, one of the safest picks in this draft. If drafted at the right spot. If you're drafting J.J. McCarthy at 4, 3, or even the crazy reports of 2, to be the savior of your franchise, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. Because I don't think he has the transcendent talent to do that. But when you start getting into the teens, where there's good coaching, and there's a structure in place that's going to give him the time to develop and get better, that's where I go, God damn. J.J. McCarthy would be a really good pickup. I personally think if they can pull it off, the only way you get a top 10 pick or top 5 pick for J.J. McCarthy that, in my opinion, is fine. It's still it's overvalued, but at least the team getting him has the structure to make it work, is if a Minnesota goes and picks him up. Or even a Denver, because at least Denver, you can't deny, Sean Payton can coach himself up a quarterback. But if a team like that, that's in the teens, comes up and takes J.J. McCarthy, then I don't have nearly as much of a problem with it. Because at least it's a team that has the structure in place to make J.J. McCarthy. But again, has more athleticism than he's given credit for. Has a better arm than he's given credit for. Has the clutch gene. I don't care that he won big games, because there's a lot of quarterbacks, Stetson Bennett from a year or two ago, Tim Tebow, all these guys that are super successful at the college level that are not NFL level quarterbacks, they win big games. It's not necessarily he wins the big game, but when it's big moments and you have to show up, you have to do it in the best context for the NFL. J.J. McCarthy does that, and he's got a little bit more gunslinger mentality, but the right amount for his skill level. He's just a really smart and good in structure player that can play outside of structure when needed. And I personally really, really like J.J. McCarthy, and I think he's a safer pick at a quarterback position. If you're telling me, Evan, you're the team GM, your job's on the line, and you're being told you're taking a quarterback no matter what, and your choices come down to Drake May or J.J. McCarthy. If you're telling me I have to take the swing on one of those two, I'm taking J.J. McCarthy. Because I think there's a higher probability that he's better. And I don't have a good gut feeling about Drake May. That could blow up in my face. It's fine. It's part of the game. No one's ever right that many times. No one's ever 100% accurate as a scout. But I must say, J.J. McCarthy to me is a much safer prospect. He's a better bet. And at the quarterback position, you better believe better bets are important. I love taking the big swing, but I want to see the talent that I'm super impressed by and take the big swing at. And if I'm not super impressed and you have talent, but you don't have the things to put it all together, and I'm supposed to take a big swing and a leap of faith on you, I won't do it as much. I won't just draft a guy because they can throw the biggest ball, or they can make a wow play every once in a while. If you can't do the little things and the intermediate things really well, or at least show that you're getting better and can do it, I won't touch you till the time is right or the price is right. If you're telling me I got to take a first-round quarterback out of a lot of these guys, I'm going to take J.J. McCarthy. I think he can play really well at the NFL level. So I have number 16, J.J. McCarthy. Now we're at the top 15. Here's a guy who's getting a lot of pub in the wrong way. And that is Xavier Worthy, wide receiver out of Texas. A lot of people have his teammate Adonai Mitchell ahead of him as a wide receiver. I do not see that. Adonai Mitchell is a bigger bodied receiver and a more prototypical receiver. And that's true. If you're into that, Adonai Mitchell's more of your guy out of Texas. But the thing about Xavier Worthy is too much is being made out of the fact that, he's a combine guy. He ran the 4.2 140. He's just a 40 guy. He's not just a 40 guy. First of all, like I always say, special teams. He's a good return man. He is going to stretch a field better than anybody with the speed, but the deep route is there for him. But he's good intermediately, and he's in a good position to get yak in short yardage situations as well. He plays a better receiver than he's ever going to be given credit for because so many people are seeing 40 over evaluation. It's not, he's going to get thrown up the board unfairly. It's not John Ross. Okay? Xavier Worthy can play wide receiver. Now, for the sake of his career, I hope he does fall a little bit. Do you want to know why? Because the bust factor isn't nearly as big, and he's going to go to a team who's going to probably know how to use him properly. Think about it. I think he's the 15th best player as of my evaluations right now. And like I said, there's a few things that I'm still working on to get the full breadth of the class. But as of right now, I have him as my 15th ranked player. If he goes 15 to Indianapolis, that could work. Not saying it couldn't. It could work. But if he falls to, I don't know, Buffalo, I think it could work a little bit better. Or he falls to, I don't know, number 32 in the Kansas City Chiefs. He falls all the way to 32. You best believe Kansas City's going to make him a star. He is a good receiver that is now going to get given the credit because he's going to be viewed as just the 40 guy. He's a better receiver than he's given credit for. I think he's a big threat to be a good player in the NFL. 15, and I always say this in my evaluations when it comes to speed as well. Can't teach speed. You either have it or you don't. You can get a little bit faster or a little bit slower. But you either have speed or you don't. Xavier Worthy has speed. He's the fastest guy in this draft. He doesn't play as the fastest guy in this draft, ironically enough. But when it comes to straight line speed, he's got it. I think Xavier Worthy can be a very productive NFL player. That is why I have him at number 15. So number 15 for the big board this year, it is Xavier Worthy, wide receiver, Texas. Now we go to another receiver, another guy. This is going to be the one that's going to wow some people, or it's going to immediately, if I get a comment section going, it's going to be Keon Coleman. You're way too high in Keon Coleman. But I have number 14, Keon Coleman, wide receiver, Florida State. If you saw my top 5 wide receiver rankings, A, it shows you how much I think of the wide receiver class, but B, you would know how highly I think of Keon Coleman. I think Keon Coleman can be an absolute star at the NFL level. Plays a lot faster than he's ever given credit for, and everyone's going to look at the Combine 40 and say, oh, he can't run. Whatever. Look at guys like Puka Nacua. Didn't have a great 40 time either, and he was dominating the league last year. Because they have size, and they have play speed, and they have the talent and the ability to go get a ball unlike anybody else. And they're tough, physical players. Keon Coleman has all those things. Even guys' return ability. Which is crazy for a guy when you say, oh, my 6'4" high point wide receiver is going to go be my really good return man. Keon Coleman does that, though. I adore all of his physical attributes with the way he plays the game. He plays the game tough, plays it physical, can high point the ball like nobody else. Has a wider range of catch. He has a bigger catch radius than most in the NFL draft right now. I think there may be one player that has a higher catch radius or a catch range than he does. And that's the highest wide receiver in my rankings. Spoiler. But the fact that because he's not as fast, people are going to say, oh, he's a second round guy is insane to me. I hope he sneaks into the first to one of those great teams and he doesn't go to a team that doesn't have a structure around him. Because I want him to succeed because I think he's that damn good. But number 14, Keon Coleman, wide receiver out of Florida State. Keon, every year an evaluator, I should say this before I move off of Keon. Every year as an evaluator, every scout has their guys, their handful of guys, or maybe it's just a lot of guys in general, that they fall in love with and they will just pound the table. I'm telling you this guy. I'm telling you this guy. Keon Coleman's one of my guys this year. I absolutely adore the way Keon Coleman plays football. And I think he could be a super contributor for a team. And I'd say that lightly. So number 14, a boy, Keon Coleman, wide receiver, Florida State. Number 13, the small school cat. I have Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback, corner, Toledo. The Toledo Rocket. The top two corners that I have are very closely ranked. Not as closely ranked as 22, 23, and 24, like the other three that I had back, the back half of the top 25. However, Quinyon Mitchell, great hip movement, great fluidity, understands how to cover, understands how to move, has decent closing speed, has a very good first step, plays well in space, knows how to manipulate routes, and play physical when he needs to play physical, and he has a decent size to play that. He plays bigger than his 6-foot status would suggest. He's a hell of an athlete. Quinyon Mitchell is, from all accounts, one hell of a player. I don't have concerns, but I don't want to say I have concerns, because at the tape, he shows, doesn't matter if it's, against Northern Illinois or Ohio State, he's going to hold up against all receivers. I'm not concerned about him holding up, but I would be lying if I said, okay, he didn't dominate Ohio State receivers. He played well against them. And he doesn't have as much exposure around that big talent. He's done it. I'm never going to take that away from him. But that was, if we're splitting hairs, and I think we're getting closer to splitting hairs between himself and the next corner that you're going to see on my list, that is a concern that you have to have. And again, it's not fair to say it's a concern. It's just the best way to say it. It's not a concern. It's just you're choosing preference. I like Quinyon Mitchell. I think he's a good player. I just don't have him as my number one corner in the draft. But I think he can be a hell of a good player for an NFL team. And I think he will succeed because he's going to go to one of those teens picks that has the availability to develop a corner, give them the time, and become something special. So at number 13, I have Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback, Toledo. Number 11, more wide receiver time. It is the big play threat himself, Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver out of LSU. Much like the quarterback rankings, as I said earlier, I've done a whole episode on the top 5 wide receivers. So I don't want to go too much into all these guys again. What I will say about Brian Thomas Jr. is I think he may have the ability to be better than everybody, simply because he has the skill set of size, speed, and acceleration that other guys don't. When it comes to the best package of size and speed put together, and especially the acceleration after or through a route, Brian Thomas Jr. has the best combination of all of those things outside of one guy in the draft. When it comes to strictly size and speed put together, he has the best out of all of them. He's a big play guy. He's not the kind of guy that you go, crossing route on 8 yards, get us 9. He's the kind of guy that you go, hey, can you run this in and out route at 5 and turn it into 25? Yeah, no problem. I got you. That's Brian Thomas Jr. His acceleration around a corner, or his acceleration through a route is insane. And it's tremendous. He's a big play waiting to happen. So at number 11, I have Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver, LSU. As we make it to the top 10, we're going to take a little pause for the cause just for 1 second and ask you, do you just feel like rewarding yourself sometimes? I know I do. You know what you should do? Head on over to ptcreative.etsy.com. We currently have the promo code BLISS, BLISS. You can use that on any order, 2 items or more, and take 20% off your total order. We've got football stickers. We've got Pokemon stuff. We got National Park stuff. We've got other fictitious property stuff. We're starting even more kind of pseudo fashion lines, even though it's absurd to say for me, but little fashion lines with the you hate to see it line. Got the bird keeper line with legendary bird themes from Pokemon. We've got all kinds of cool things. We've got everything from stickers to bucket hats. It's going to be a lot of fun for you. Go get yourself a t-shirt, a sticker, a hat, a hoodie, and show your support for the channel as much as you possibly can and support a new artist, someone who'd greatly, greatly appreciate it more than a big box chain. I would love, 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 love to have your support out there, and I thank you for it. So use the promo code BLISS, take 20% off an order of 2 items or more, and treat yourself by getting yourself something from ptecreative.etsy.com. Oh, we back into it. So transitioning from number 11, we go number 10, the top 10 players on my big board for the 2024 NFL Draft as of April 3rd. Number 10, Talisi Fuaga. Right tackle. Specified that for a reason. Oregon State. You want a guy who just wants to hit people? Talisi Fuaga is your guy. The evaluation of Talisi Fuaga only has one problem, and it's the fact that, oh my gosh, I didn't even count right. He's my number 11 guy. What did I do wrong? Oh, because Brian Thomas is 12, Talisi Fuaga is 11. My bad, folks. Skipped a guy. Not really. Skipped a number. Number 11. That's embarrassing, but I'm too far into try again, so who cares? Number 11, Talisi Fuaga. You want a guy who's just going to hit people? He's your guy. Right tackle, he's far more of a right tackle than a left tackle. But at this point in the NFL, with edge players playing so many different positions, right tackle is not as valuable, but very, very valuable, and is comparable to the left tackle position. The left tackle will always have that as the blindside protector, unless it's a scheme with a left-handed quarterback. But a right tackle is an extremely valuable piece to protecting your quarterback. This is a guy who's going to go out, high-energy player, high-effort player, that wants to engage and attack with his hands and pummel you. And if you don't give him that, and he has the ability to move to the next level or chip the guy next to him because no one's taking up where his direct responsibility is, he's going to take it and he's going to do well at it. Talisi Fuaga is a guy who wants to hit people. I love offensive linemen that like to hit people because that is the job. So I have number 11, my apologies, 11, Talisi Fuaga, offensive tackle, Oregon State. A very good, viable option to help an offensive line. Now, that basic education system did me so well, apparently. No, that was just me making a terrible fuck up on live air. Number 10, I'm not going to blame the Wisconsin public school system because it treated me really well. Number 10 on my big board, the final corner on my big board, and that is Terrion Arnold, cornerback, Alabama. Terrion Arnold, I'll just put it simply, is fucking good. Sometimes his shit's good. But with Terrion Arnold, you have all the positives that I said about Quinyon Mitchell, but you have somebody who has a nose for the ball and is going to attack and make a play on a ball more so than all the other guys in the class at corner, except maybe Cooper DeJean. Because Cooper DeJean, I did forget to mention, has a great nose for the football. But a guy that's just always swarming around the ball, always trying to make a play on the ball, is going to get picks, is going to make return yardage on those picks, is going to make game-swinging plays if given the opportunity, because the cornerback position, they can only do so much if they're not tested. And I'm not saying he's an island corner like Darrelle Revis, but a guy, corners have the unfortunate piece of sometimes they just have quiet games because they don't get tested as much from a pass protection standpoint or a pass defense standpoint, I should say. But with Terrion Arnold, you have a guy who is just always around the ball, Tip ball, he's there. Fumbled ball, he's there. Or he's causing the fumble. And he's a great return man as well. He's just shifty, knows how to go through. He's got the eye that he doesn't want to get the ball and stop. He wants to get the ball and go all the way to the end zone. I love that in defensive backs, where the defense can turn into the offense. Those are the kind of defensive players I always want on my team. Because those are the kind of guys that have the aggressive mentality to go make the plays that always need to be made in high pressure situations. I love that in Terrion Arnold. But again, plays press, plays zone really well, has the best coaching you can get from a defensive standpoint or a defensive back standpoint from Nick Saban. Tremendous lineage there. But he's an extremely intelligent player that wants to help and run support, get in there. He wants to go help crossing routes that are coming across the middle. He wants to go attack those guys. He can take people outside. He can take people inside. He can deal with people deep. He has the speed to handle those things. Those are all the things I love about Terrion Arnold. So, top 10 player for me this year. Terrion Arnold, cornerback, Alabama. Number 9. And many people, he's climbing now to be the number 1 tackle. I have him as my number 2 tackle. Spoilers. But it's Joe Alt, left tackle, Notre Dame. I really like Joe Alt. He's extremely consistent movement, has great size, good frame. Again, the great lineage of Notre Dame. I don't care so much about your school unless it has a history of producing great guys. It's kind of like Ohio State right now with wide receivers or LSU with wide receivers. Notre Dame has that classic Midwestern Big Ten. We just make good linemen here. It's the same thing, if I look at my home state, Wisconsin Badgers. The Wisconsin Badgers do not make skill players that are great frequently. A few slip through the cracks, but we don't usually produce, as a state, we don't usually produce a lot of skill position players. You know what University of Wisconsin does a lot? Produces great linemen. Notre Dame is a similar effect. Notre Dame just produces, it's a factory for great offensive linemen. Joe Alt's one of the best I've seen come out of Notre Dame. Phenomenal hand usage, great in pass protection, good low center of gravity for the most part, knows how to use his hips for leverage. Very effective pull. It is amazing to me how often he will pull instead of a guard. Great athleticism coming out of Joe Alt that I really, really like and appreciate. And those are all things that I just think are tremendous about Joe Alt's game. This is your prototype. He's the kind of guy that's your prototype left tackle. He's your franchise. Oh, hey, our franchise quarterback is there. Our franchise quarterback is back in the pocket. Don't fuck it up. Make sure our investment pays off. Joe Alt's the guy you pay to make sure your investment pays off. I really like Joe Alt's game. Very efficient movements. Very prototypical movements. And I think he's the safest of the tackles to take. I don't think it's a huge gap, but I have him as my number 2 tackle, not my number 1, which we will get to my number 1. Very, very quick. But again, a great, phenomenal pick. If your team picks Joe Alt, don't be mad, because Joe Alt's going to really help your team get better. So, number 9, I have Joe Alt, tackle, Notre Dame. Number 8, another controversial one because a lot of people have him lower due to health concerns. Again, I evaluate what's on tape. Number 8, in my opinion, the best edge rusher in the class is Laiatu Latu. So, Laiatu Latu, edge UCLA, is my number 8 player. If you want to see a guy take over a game at the edge position, more so than anybody else in this class, it is Laiatu Latu. Fast, physical, strong, constantly putting pressure, extremely high motor, plays like every game is his last in the best ways possible because he's already had his career threatened. So he's always giving super high motor, super high energy, and efficient plays as well. He's also the kind of guy that if he does not make the first play, he doesn't take himself out of the play. He immediately snaps back towards getting into a productive position to go attack people. And that's what I love about Leatula. Now, he's a bit older. Can't deny that compared to some college prospects that he's playing against. And that is fair. But when it comes to strictly on tape, best guy at the position, I don't think it's close. I think it's Leatu Latu. You want to go get a game changing edge rusher? I think it's Leatu Latu. I love his tape. He's a physical force at the edge position. He's a great run defender. Understands how to do it. Has a little bit of versatility going inside, outside, playing a couple different techniques, which is something I didn't see a lot of the edge rushers do. He played in various different techniques across the line. And for those who don't know, a technique, you're going from different positions. A 3 technique is far closer to the middle of the offensive line from a defensive standpoint than doing a 7 technique or a 9 technique way outside. Leatu Latu played a lot of different techniques. And I love that about his game. It shows versatility that he'll take on defensive tackles, he'll take on guards and centers, but he also can take on outside tackles, tight ends. That's nothing except like the best NFL blocking tight ends could do anything about it. I love Leatu Latu's game, and it's going to come down to a team comfortable with the medicals. He's another guy people should be afraid of because he's going to fall probably due to medical, and a good team's going to get him. And he's going to be a force for a while for that team. I would hate to see Leatu Latu from a fan perspective. I'd hate to see Leatu Latu end up with a team in the late teens, really late teens, early 20s, or even late 20s that already has a really good defense and just says, hey, why don't we just get the best edge rusher in the class because no one wants to draft him due to his health concerns. We'll take him. No risk on our part. And you know what that's going to happen for that team? They're going to be rewarded with big, high pressures, a lot of pressures, a lot of hurries, and a lot of sacks. That is what Leatu Latu is going to bring. He's a great edge rusher. In my opinion, he's the best in the class. So at number 8 this year, my highest rated edge player, I have Leatu Latu edge out of UCLA. Now we get to number 7. It is Olu Fashanu. I think it's Oluwayima Fashanu to be exact. But Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle, Penn State. The reason I went with, because they plays very similar to Joe Alt from the standpoint of the projection of value. He can hold up really, really well, has great size, great frame. Olu's just a little bit rawer than Joe Alt, which is probably what's taking people down. When you see really, really high-end tackles, most people don't want projections in the top 10. They want sure things, which is understandable and completely reasonable. I think Olu has a little bit higher upside than Joe Alt, and I think he's a little bit more athletic. And I think even with his more raw traits, he understands the leverage point a lot, not a lot better, but better than Joe Alt does. And when I compare notes for the two players, they're virtually identical outside of the rawness of Olu. However, he's always in a really good position. His strength in a block is far more evident, and he engages first point a lot more than Joe Alt. Joe Alt's far more patient in a block. Not that the patience is bad. It's not. But Olu usually makes the first step a little bit faster and engages a little bit quicker in a nicer way than Joe Alt does, in my opinion, watching the tape. Again, he's rawer. So if you're the GM that's like, I'm taking a tackle, and both are available to you, and you need to keep your job, you take Joe Alt. If you can take a little bit of a swing, and I don't think it's a big swing. I think no matter what, Olu Fashanu is going to be a good tackle in the NFL. if you can live with a little bit more of the development, I think Olu Fashion is going to be a better player long term than Joe Alt is. It's not going to be crazy bigger, but I think it's better. And so when I watch the tape, I see a slightly, just hair better than Joe Alt. So that's my number 7 player is Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle, Penn State. I just love the athleticism and the rawness to his game and the potential that's there. Number 6. Now here's the run of the sexy players of the NFL draft. And by sexy players, I'm just saying the guys that are making plays, the guys that are the household names. There is, if you include quarterbacks, the next 6 players are all skill position or all skill position players. They are. This group is so goddamn good. It's absurd. um, like I did last week, I've already did the top 5 receivers. So this really shouldn't be 6. It should be 5B, 5A. Rome Odunze, great body control, plays tough, plays with an edge, can play through contact, has a lot more speed than he's given credit for. Very good route runner, big play waiting to happen. Rome Odunze is a badass. I really hope he does not become a Chicago Bear or a Minnesota Viking or a Detroit Lion. I don't think the other two are really that big of a threat. Just really hope he's not a Chicago Bear because I don't want to have to deal with him twice a year and helping a team that's an in-division rival to my beloved Green Bay Packers. Rome Odunze is a badass though, dude. Plays with swagger, plays with speed, plays with toughness, great hands, tough across the middle, knows how to control in tight spaces, knows how to make the big play, great hands across. I love Rome Odunze. And although he has to be 6, he's really 5B of 5A. And the 5A player, and the true 5 of this, if we have to go true integer numbers, number 5 player for me, 5A of the two 5s in my opinion, is Malik Nabers, wide receiver, LSU. Malik Nabers, again, just like Rome Odunze, is a badass. He's a badass for a different reason. You want to see a yak monster. You want to see acceleration. You want to see big play coming off of simple things like a slant route. Malik Nabers is your guy. 6 foot, but he's full of speed, dude. He plays the fastest of all the receivers that I have watched on tape this year. He plays faster than Xavier Worthy, and Xavier Worthy in straight line speed is the fastest player in this draft. Malik Nabers is lightning quick. A good comp I heard to him from a pure play standpoint, not necessarily the way they look or the way they move, but things that they can do similarly. Think of an early Odell Beckham Jr. From the standpoint of taking something that should be mundane and routine, that should be like 5 yards or 8 yards, and turning into huge big plays. That's what Malik Nabers does really, really well. Malik Nabers is scary to defend because of the speed and acceleration he has, but the control he's under as a route runner and his ability to change speed, slow down, speed up, change sense of direction, it's insane. He has really good hands too. Malik Nabers, number 5 wide receiver. Number 5, I should say, wide receiver, Malik Nabers out of LSU. But really, it's 5A, Malik Nabers, and 5B, Rome Odunze, wide receiver out of Washington. But those two, any other year, both have an argument to be the best wide receiver in the class. My opinion. It's just they have a generational wide receiver talent ahead of them that I think is can't miss. We move forward. Number 4. It took a lot for me to even get him this low, but that shows you how much I love the other 3 players in the draft ahead of him. At number 4, I have Jaden Daniels, quarterback, LSU. Now, I've already done a good deep dive on Jaden Daniels and my thoughts on him. Great runner. That's not what you're looking for in a quarterback, looking for a great passer, but I think he's a great passer as well. Good arm. Has a lot of zip on the ball. Has really good vision. He's going to need development. He's going to need to develop a little bit more as a pocket presence, But his ability to scramble, make something out of nothing, make big plays happen, it's tremendous. And if you're looking for a dual threat quarterback, especially in today's NFL, cannot go wrong with a Jaden Daniels. If things work out and he's put in the right place, Jaden Daniels is going to be a star in the NFL for a long time. If he's put in a place that unfortunately doesn't have that structure, I think he's still going to be a good serviceable starter that's always looking for the best structure for. Either way, I think he himself is going to be very successful in the NFL. If you want to hear more thoughts on Jaden Daniels, once again, go hear the quarterback rankings that I did a couple weeks back, 2 weeks back, I guess. Jaden Daniels, I love Jaden Daniels' game. And I have Jaden Daniels as the number one pick in any draft if there's not a generational quarterback ahead of him, which there is this year. So my number 2 quarterback overall and my number 4 overall player on my big board, the Jaden Daniels quarterback, LSU. And now we go, in my opinion, to the special of the special. At number 3, it's Brock Bowers, tight end, Georgia. I had heard all this hype about Brock Bowers, and it's not a great tight end draft outside of Brock Bowers. There are good players late second, early third, from my knowledge of the situation. But the guy who brings the entire class up and is deserving of the hype that he's gotten, in my opinion, is Brock Bowers. Thing about Brock Bowers, I really was ready. Just hearing all this hype going, there's no way this tight end can be that good. It is not a fair comparison because, in my opinion, he's already one of, if not the best tight end in NFL history. But he has a similar way of doing things that Travis Kelce does. And yes, that's unfair. And that's why I'm not saying he is Travis Kelce. He's not. But he has a similar way of doing things to Travis Kelce. I even saw a mock draft that somehow he fell all the way to Kansas City. And I was like, that would be the most insane 1-2 punch of tight end I've ever seen. But that's neither here nor there. That's one mock draft. I don't think he's going to last at 32. Brock Bowers, he's going to probably fall due to quarterback and offensive tackle depth, and then cornerback depth of just team needs. But I think good for Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers treat him far more like a high-end slot receiver that also can block like a traditional tight end. That's where you need to look at Brock Bowers. It's similar to the Kyle Pitts effect, but in my opinion, he's a far better blocker than Kyle Pitts ever was. And he's far more effective doing the little things that Kyle Pitts was not. With Brock Bowers, you have speed, you have shiftiness, you have efficient route running, and then you have a phenomenal blocker. And not one of these receiving tight ends that goes, oh, I hit the guy, or oh, I missed him. No, this is a guy who's out looking to hit somebody when he's asked to block. He's a tremendous blocker. I see him against quality edge players on tape, taking them one-on-one. That is not something a tight end can usually do. He has the footwork in blocking that a tackle does, in a good way. Prototypical, really nice, choppy, quick feet. Good hand placement on a block, good leverage, good controls. Brock Bowers has that. That's insane. That a skill position player has that blocking ability. That's what made me fall in love with Brock Bowers. And then you see him as a receiver, taking screens that should be 3-yard gains and they're turned into 22. Used intermediate routes or the Travis Kelce-esque, I got to catch it and get 9, I'm at 7, and I make it 12. Brock Bowers does those things. He is special. I've never loved a tight end coming out of draft more than I like Brock Bowers. And I was ready to shit all over Brock Bowers because most of the time when I'm getting to an evaluation of a player like him, I'm getting all this hype and all this, oh no, he's a future Hall of Famer. He's this, he's that. You have to tune that out. But I kind of go in with a negative attitude, just going like, okay, let's see what this guy can really do. And he floored me how well he played. It's good shit to watch Brock Bowers. He plays like a badass. And the other thing that made me think Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce never takes direct hits at a tight end. He's just shifty and wormy in that way. The patented Kelce turn where he does the little curl route right before the sticks and just does enough of a swivel and back pivot, and he gets that extra yardage. It's the Travis Kelce just basic back pivot that's just phenomenal and been successful his entire career. Brock Bowers has that similar thing where he doesn't have that pivot move that Travis Kelce does, but he plays in a similar fashion that he's never taking direct hits at contact on contact. And when he does that, he's getting glancing blows that don't knock him down because he's such a strong, powerful, big athlete that allows him to just keep making big plays. But he can shift, pivot, and accelerate closer to what a receiver can than what a tight end usually does. I cannot say good about Brock Bowers. I adore Brock Bowers. And he is an easy number 3 on my list. So number 3, I have Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. And then the top 2, they've been gushed about by everyone, but I'm going to defend them a little bit here. Number 2, I have Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver, Ohio State. The amount of people that are just looking for reasons for Marvin Harrison to not be the number 1 receiver is insane. I like Malik Nabers a lot. He's the one who's constantly getting pushed up. You just heard me gush about Malik Nabers. I like him. I like him a lot. I love Malik Nabers' game. Any other year, he's my number 1 receiver. Or tied for 1, I guess, with Roma Dunze and the way I'm saying these things. Which I think is accurate. I'm not lying about that. But I don't think there's been a more can't-miss prospect at the wide receiver position since Calvin Johnson. He's not the same player as Calvin Johnson, but no one's the same player as Marvin Harrison Jr. The hands, the speed, the route running, the acceleration, body control, contested catches, ability to high point a ball, the ability to make yards after the catch, the ability to just make the crucial catch that no one else can make, the professionalism to attack his craft and not care about nonsensical things. Nobody has a more complete package at the wide receiver position that I have ever seen as an evaluator than Marvin Harrison Jr. does. And the fact that people want to say he's not the number 1 wide receiver simply because he's been anointed that, so people just have to chip away at him, insane. I'm not saying a scout couldn't say Malik Nabers is better than him. If that's what a scout says, that's their opinion. If they have their notes and they're prepared, that's not unfair to say that's what you see on tape. But when I watch Marvin Harrison Jr., I see the guy who's going to dominate. This is going to be crazy to say. I see a guy who's going to take over the 4th quarter of a Super Bowl and help and be the Super Bowl MVP. That's what I see with Marvin Harrison Jr. If you'd like a small bit of proof of that, look at the Georgia game before he gets hurt in 2022. Georgia is not the national champions in 2022 if Marvin Harrison Jr. gets to play the second half of that game. Straight up, they're not. Because Marvin Harrison Jr. took that game over. Georgia had no answers for him. And that is a team that is full of 1st and 2nd round defensive players. That is a high-end NFL defense when it comes to player ability. And Marvin Harrison Jr. made them look like chumps. Every catch imaginable, he made it. Do you need a catch for yards that gave you 10 to 12 yards after the catch? He made it. Did you need a tough catch on the sideline? He made it. Did you need a high point catch? He made it. Do you need a continuation scramble catch? Don't worry, he made it. Need something soft, quick? to get you a couple yards, he made it. The most complete receiver I've ever seen is Marvin Harrison Jr. and an easy number 2. And I debated number 1, but I just could not do it because of the talent of their number 1 player. But the best wide receiver I've ever evaluated is Marvin Harrison Jr., and it's not close. My opinion. So number 2, Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver, Ohio State. And we are finally going to end at our number 1 spot. The most anticlimactic number 1 spot of all time, Caleb Williams, quarterback, USC. He's being comped to Patrick Mahomes. It's not inherently fair. It's no one's Patrick Mahomes. No one's the best quarterback in the NFL history except Patrick Mahomes. But I will say this. Haven't seen a quarterback come out like him ever, including Mahomes. And I said that on our top 5 quarterback episode, where these catch on Spotify or see the recap of it on YouTube. I've never evaluated a quarterback like Caleb Williams in my life. His vision and snap vision to reestablish a play, I've never seen anything like it. His ability to just create something out of complete nothing. His ability to take chicken shit and not only make a chicken salad, but the greatest chicken meal you'll ever see is insane. And those trying to say, no, it's this guy, no, it's that guy, no, it's this guy. They're chipping away at something because the guy has been obviously the number 1 guy for 2 years. He's a better prospect than almost any quarterback to ever come out in the NFL draft. And that's not hyperbole, it's just fact. It's just fact. Is he going to turn out that way? Who knows? Nobody knows. All these players are gambles. Whether you think they're surefire Hall of Famers coming out, or you think they're going to suck, and you're just completely dead wrong. That happens all the time. That's something to know as an evaluator. But when it comes to purely watching a prospect and seeing what they could be at the NFL level based on their tape in college football, there has never been a player like Caleb Williams in the last 10 to 15 years. He is the generational prospect. He is this era's John Elway, Andrew Luck. He is that guy. But he has more athleticism than both of them. That is an insane statement to make. People who want to chip away at Caleb Williams, go fuck yourself. You're just trying really hard to go find something. You don't like his personality, fine. That's your prerogative. You don't like some of the little things that he does, fine. That's your prerogative. I think it's silly, but it's your prerogative. But for those trying to chip away at the tape, being like, oh, he's not special, you're out of your mind. Because I've never seen something this special. As a prospect, just making complete shit turn into gold. I've never seen a prospect do it like Caleb Williams. And that's what happens at the NFL level sometimes. But he has the ability to play instruction and be great. And that is hands down the best part about it. That is my number 1 player in the 2024 NFL Draft. That is Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. But that is going to do it for the pod today, and the show today. I appreciate you guys watching, taking the time out of your day to listen or to watch on the YouTube feed. You guys can all watch and recap if you so choose. I'm not going to say all 25 names like that again. But I will say this was a very fun exercise, and next week it's going to be even more fun because it's mock draft 1.0 time. We're going to see how good that mock draft is. I've said on the pod we're going to maybe do multiple. We'll see, but I'm going to do mock 1.0 next week on the channel. And we'll be 3 weeks out from the NFL draft, so we'll see what happens there. But mock draft 1.0 is coming next week. But if you need more content during that time, go check out PT Creative over on YouTube or Spotify for the ONETA show. There's all kinds of cool content over there. If you like this video, like it, comment on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Hit the notification bell. Share this with as many people. I don't even care if you're just like, this guy's a fucking idiot. I don't care. Share it if it at least entertains you. That's what football fandom is about to a degree, is debate, healthy debate, figuring out what you like, what you don't like, what you believe in, what you don't believe in. Share it with people. Check out our socials at TikTok and Instagram. Go check out the audio versions over on Spotify if you're not already listening on Spotify. If you are, we love you. Thank you for doing that. And go check out our Etsy shop, ptcreative.etsy.com. We'd appreciate it if you do that too. But that is going to do it for today's show. Thank you guys all for watching or listening. We appreciate you. Best of luck to you in draft season and hope season. We out.